All right, let's jump into another deep dive. Today we're taking a look at this article called Who Gets Wiped Out in a Recession?
Oh, yeah. This one's all about like those money habits and mindsets that can really make or break you when, the economy takes a bit of a downturn.
Yeah, and it's fascinating. I mean, it really breaks down these specific mistakes that people tend to make, like almost these different profiles.
Yeah, and it's funny because we all know somebody, right? Or maybe even like ourselves at some point who kind of fit into one of these categories.
Totally. So the article, it kind of breaks it down into 7 different profiles of folks who might struggle during a recession. And I got to say, I think it's super relevant for all of us, no matter like where we are in our financial journeys. So let's kick things off with the overspenders.
Mhm.
It's just so easy to fall into that trap of lifestyle inflation, right?
Oh, for sure.
Every raise, every bonus, suddenly you're thinking about a bigger apartment, a fancier car, that top of the line gadget.
Yeah, you get caught up in those recurring expenses. But then you got to remember, especially during a recession, those fixed costs, they become like anchors,
Yeah.
dragging you down. And they're not easy to get rid of when your income suddenly takes a hit.
No, tell me about it. I've definitely been guilty of that in the past. I remember this one time I got a bonus and immediately I was like, vacation time.
Yeah.
But looking back, maybe a rainy day fund would have been the smarter choice.
Oh yeah, for sure. And the article, it uses this great example. People assume that they can just cut back if they need to, but it's harder than it sounds.
Yeah.
Rent, car payments, all those bills, they keep coming no matter what the economy is doing.
It's true. So it's not just about what we spend,
Mhm.
right? It's about how we spend it. You know,
Yeah.
building in those cushions, living maybe even like a little below our means. Those are the real secrets to weathering a financial storm, would you say?
Oh, absolutely. It's all about having that breathing room when things get tight.
Yeah.
It's not about like deprivation or anything.
No.
It's about having that financial freedom and that peace of mind.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, so next up, we've got the emotional decision makers. And this one, I think, feels especially relevant these days with all the market volatility that's going on.
Oh, yeah.
You see those headlines, the stock's dipping, and it's like this gut punch,
Hmm.
you know, and panic just sets in, and everybody's selling off their investments, just locking in those losses.
It's hard though, right? I mean, panicking, it's kind of a natural reaction, but when you're making decisions based on fear,
Yeah.
you often end up just making things worse.
100%. And this is where I think having that like that solid financial plan comes in, something you can rely on even when your emotions are running high.
Exactly. Exactly. It's
Yeah.
it's remembering that recessions are, historically speaking, temporary.
Yeah.
The average length is around 10 months.
Okay.
So rather than panicking and making these rash moves,
Right.
it's about having that long-term perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And speaking of risk, the article also kind of dives into this world of the risk takers, right?
Mhm.
And this is where we get into things like crypto investments, those startup ventures,
Right.
all those high stakes plays that can either, win you a fortune or leave you with nothing.
Yeah, and this is where, the principle of diversification becomes so crucial, right?
Mhm.
It's not putting all your eggs in one basket. If one investment takes a hit, you have the others to kind of cushion the blow a little bit. So instead of riding that roller coaster of one single investment,
Yeah.
you're spreading out the risk, you're making your portfolio a little more stable, a little more resilient.
Exactly. High risk investments, they definitely have their place.
Yeah.
But you need that safety net of diversification and, of course, a solid emergency fund.
100%.
So-
Speaking of things that can be a little bit scary, let's talk about debt, right? It's easy to rack up those credit card balances or take out loans without really thinking about the long-term impact.
I kind of like to think of debt as that friend who always shows up unannounced,
Yeah.
especially when you can least afford it.
And what's fascinating is that those debt obligations, they're pretty unyielding.
Yeah.
They don't really care if we've lost your job or the market's crashed or whatever.
Right.
Those payments, they're still due.
Definitely not the kind of friend you want hanging around during a recession.
No.
The article mentions like homeowners in the 2008 crisis who were stuck with these mortgages they couldn't afford.
Oh,
You
yeah.
talk about a financial nightmare.
Absolutely. It's a stark reminder of how unchecked debt can just compound all your problems during those tough times.
Yeah.
So avoiding that unnecessary debt, especially those high interest credit cards, and prioritizing like paying down what you already have, That's essential.
Yeah, it's like that old saying, right? You dig the well before you're thirsty.
Mhm.
You handle those debts before they become a major issue, especially when things get uncertain.
Exactly. Now, kind of shifting gears a bit here, the article also highlights those challenges that those specialized workers face. You know,
Oh, okay.
these are the folks who are like masters of their
Yeah,
niche,
yeah.
super in demand during, the good times.
Yeah.
But then when the economy takes a downturn, their specialized skills, they might not be as sought after anymore.
That's an interesting point. It's almost like putting all your eggs in one basket, but instead of investments, it's your skills.
Exactly. It gives the example of like a programmer whose coding language, all of a sudden becomes obsolete.
Right.
They were at the top of their game, but now they gotta adapt, and they gotta adapt quickly.
So how do we avoid becoming that programmer? Is it all about constantly learning new skills, even if things are good? Like that kind of, what is it? Upskilling.
It's like having a career insurance policy.
Oh, sure.
You might not need it now, but it'll be there if things change.
Right, right.
So broadening your skill set, staying curious, staying adaptable, those are your secret weapons in a changing economic landscape.
So even if you're, the best widget maker in the world, it's probably a good idea to have some backup skills just in case the demand for widgets plummets.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've covered like overspenders, emotional decision makers, risks takers, those who are burdened by debt,
Mm-hmm.
those specialized workers who might find themselves needing to adapt.
Right.
What's next?
Let's talk about a scenario that might seem a little counterintuitive at first, being asset rich, cash poor.
Ooh, now this one really intrigues me. It's like owning a mansion but then not being able to pay the utility bills.
Right.
How can someone be like wealthy but still struggling financially?
It all comes down to liquidity.
Okay.
You might have valuable assets, a house, stocks, maybe even a collection of rare Beanie Babies, whatever
Sure.
it is. But if you can't readily access cash, those assets, they're not going to do much good when those unexpected expenses pop up.
It's like having a fancy sports car but no gas in the tank.
Right.
Right. It looks impressive, but it's not going to get you very far.
Yeah, pretty much.
So how do you strike that balance between having those assets but also having, liquid cash?
It's about having a portion of your portfolio in readily accessible funds.
Okay.
Cash, money market accounts, things that you can easily tap into without having to sell off assets at a loss.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like having a little bit of breathing room just in case. Now, I'm curious, what are some of the big takeaways from this article? What should we be like walking away with here?
Well, the article really hammers home three core lessons.
Okay.
First, adaptability is key.
Yeah.
Whether it's your skill set, your mindset, or your financial strategies, being able to adjust to those changing circumstances is paramount.
Yeah. It's like the world's constantly throwing curveballs, and we got to be ready to swing at them.
Mm-hmm.
What else?
Secondly, diversification is our best friend.
Okay.
Don't put all your eggs in one basket,
Right.
whether we're talking investments, income streams, or even skills.
Okay, so it's about having that backup generator when the power goes out, right?
Exactly.
Spreading that risk, making you much more resilient.
Right.
Okay, I'm sensing a theme here. What's the final piece of advice?
You can't underestimate the power of planning for the unexpected.
Okay.
A healthy emergency fund, smart debt management, a well thought out investment strategy. They're all essential for weathering those economic storms.
So it's not just about surviving a recession, right?
Yeah.
It's about thriving in spite of it,
Right.
being proactive, strategic, and a little bit fearless.
Fearless in the sense of being prepared.
Yeah.
Knowing that you've taken steps to protect yourself and build that solid foundation.
Yeah. I love that. So after unpacking all these different profiles, there's one last profile that the article touches on.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a bit more, let's say, abstract.
Okay.
Ready to dive into that?
Yeah, let's do it.
Absolutely. Bring it on. What's this mysterious profile all about?
Well, it's less about a specific like financial situation and more about a mindset. What the article calls being emotionally unprepared.
Okay.
You see, even with a perfect financial plan, a recession can hit you hard emotionally.
That makes total sense. We've been talking about all these practical tips for managing money.
Right.
But what about managing, our mental and emotional well-being when things get get tough.
It's about recognizing that a recession it isn't just about numbers and spreadsheets.
Right.
It can impact your mental health, your relationships, even your overall outlook on life.
Yeah.
The uncertainty, the stress, it can be overwhelming for a lot of people.
So it's like we need a financial first aid kit, but also like an emotional resilience toolkit to weather those economic storms.
Yeah, for sure.
What are some of the tools we can put in that emotional toolkit?
Just like you build up your financial reserves, you
Yeah.
can build up your emotional reserves as well.
Okay.
And that might mean, strengthening your support network.
Okay.
Friends, family, mentors,
Right.
people you can lean on when things get tough.
Yeah, it's about having that community, that sense of belonging, knowing that you're not alone in facing those challenges.
Exactly. And don't underestimate the power of self-care.
Yeah, that's huge.
And this looks different for everybody, of course, but it could be anything from meditation, mindfulness practices,
Yeah.
spending time in nature,
Yeah.
pursuing creative hobbies, whatever helps you kind of de-stress.
It's about finding those activities that help you de-stress,
Mm-hmm.
recharge, and just stay grounded amidst all the chaos.
Yeah.
I find that even just like a simple walk in the park can make a world of difference.
Oh, for sure.
You know.
And remember, you don't have to go it alone.
Right.
If you're struggling, don't hesitate to reach out for professional help, a
Yeah.
therapist, a counselor. They can provide really valuable support and guidance during those difficult times.
It's like having a financial advisor for your money and then an emotional coach for your well-being.
Right.
Taking care of both is so important, especially when things get rough.
Couldn't agree more. It's about recognizing that your financial health and your emotional health, they're intertwined.
Yeah.
By taking that holistic approach, you can build resilience on all fronts.
Yeah. So as we wrap up this deep dive into recession survival,
Mm-hmm.
here's what we want you to remember. Be adaptable, diversify like it's your job, and plan for those unexpected twists and turns that life throws your way.
Yeah.
And hey, while you're at it, build up those emotional resilience muscles too.
A recession, it doesn't have to mean defeat.
Yeah.
It can be an opportunity to reassess, to re-strategize, and emerge, stronger and wiser on the other side.
And who knows, maybe we'll even discover some hidden strengths and talents we didn't even know we had along the way, right?
That's a good point.
Like a chance for personal growth amidst the financial challenges.
Well said. Now, before we sign off, we want to hear from you.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on preparing for a recession, both, financially and emotionally?
Mm-hmm.
Head over to our social media.
Yes.
Share your experiences, your insights, maybe even a tip or two. Let's keep this conversation going.
We're all in this together. And by sharing our knowledge and experiences, we can help each other navigate these challenging times with greater confidence and resilience.
Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay resilient.
Happy deep diving, everyone. Absolutely. Bring it on. What's this mysterious profile all about?
Well, it's less about a specific financial situation and more about a mindset, what the article calls being emotionally unprepared.
Okay.
You see, even with a perfect financial plan, a recession can really hit you hard.
Yeah.
Emotionally.
Yeah, that makes sense. We've talked about, all these practical tips for managing our money. But what about, managing our mental and emotional well-being when things get tough?
It's about recognizing that a recession isn't just about numbers and spreadsheets.
Yeah.
It can impact your mental health, your relationships, your overall outlook on life,
Right.
the uncertainty, the stress. It
Yeah.
can be overwhelming.
It really can. So it's like we need a financial first aid kit, but also like an emotional resilience toolkit to weather those economic storms.
Yeah.
So what are some of the tools that we can put in that emotional toolkit?
Well, just like you build up your financial reserves, you can build up your emotional reserves.
Okay.
And that might mean strengthening your support network, friends, family, mentors, those people you can lean on when things get a little rough.
It's like having that community, that sense of belonging, knowing that you're not alone in facing those challenges.
Exactly. And don't underestimate the power of self-care.
Oh, that's huge. Yeah.
And this looks different for everybody.
Right.
But it could be anything from meditation, mindfulness practices, spending time in nature, pursuing a creative hobby, whatever helps you de-stress and recharge.
It's about finding those activities that help you de-stress, recharge,
Yeah.
and just stay grounded amidst all the chaos, you know?
Hmm.
I find that even just like taking a walk in the park can make a world of difference.
Oh, for sure.
You
Yeah, and
know?
remember, you don't have to go it alone. If
Right.
if you're struggling, don't hesitate to reach out for professional help.
Yeah,
A
absolutely.
therapist, a counselor, they can provide really valuable support and guidance during those, difficult times.
It's like having a financial advisor for your money and then an emotional coach for your well-being.
Exactly. Taking care of both is so important, especially when things get rough.
I couldn't agree more.
You know?
It's about recognizing that your financial health and your emotional health they're intertwined.
Yeah.
By taking that holistic approach,
Mhm.
you can build resilience on all fronts.
I love that. So as we wrap up this deep dive into recession survival, here's what we want you to remember. Be adaptable, diversify like it's your job, plan for those unexpected twists and turns that life throws your way.
Hmm.
And hey, while you're at it, build up those emotional resilience muscles too.
Yeah, a recession doesn't have to mean defeat. It can be an opportunity to kind of reassess, re-strategize, and emerge, stronger and wiser on the other side.
And who knows, maybe we'll even discover some hidden strengths and talents we didn't even know we had along the way.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's like a chance for personal growth amidst those financial challenges, right?
Absolutely. Well said. Now, before we sign off, we want to hear from you.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely. What are your thoughts on preparing for a recession, both financially and emotionally?
Mhm.
Head over to our social media, share your experiences, your insights, maybe even a tip or two.
Yeah.
Let's keep this conversation going.
We are all in this together, and by sharing our knowledge and experiences, we can help each other navigate these challenging times with greater confidence and resilience.
Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay resilient.
Happy deep diving, everyone.